Welcome back to Migmatis Golf, everybody. As promised, this is the golf simulator video. I told you, promised you these two videos. I'm going to make it two videos because it's otherwise going to be excruciatingly long. So we'll do one video on the outside equipment, and then we'll do one video on all the gizmos that make it work. All the inside stuff. So, like the title of this video suggests, do not build your back door, not back door, your backyard or outdoor driving range slash golf simulator until you've watched these two videos. There's a lot of mistakes you could be making that you don't want to make, and some could be costly. Now, we will start with the outdoor equipment. Now, it stands to reason that if I'm making a video about an outdoor golf simulator, it is because it's outdoors. I don't have a room in my house that, one, is large enough to swing a driver, and two, more importantly, the missus will let me use. So I have this nice area here. This is kind of like a concrete slab on the top of my garage. My garage is at street level. I've got my tool shed here, and a nice area, or large enough area here that I can, a bit windy, that I can set up a simulator. So what do I have? Now obviously I have a net. Now let's talk about nets. If you're going to be using this outside, this applies to inside as well, but more importantly outside, because it's not just yourself you have to look after, it's your neighbors and everybody else. You need a good quality net, a net that will trap the worst of your shots. Think about the worst shot you've ever hit, and then think 10 times worse, because it's gonna happen if you spend enough time here. So you want something obviously that you're hitting into, but something the sides as well. I suggest for the dreaded shankaroonie, and you want to prevent balls from going too high. So if you're going to be playing simulator golf, you want to play all the shots. You might be here wanting to play a 60-degree lob over a bunker or something. Now, that's probably going to go very high up near this pull-up bar here that I have, which we'll come back to in a minute. But if you can see, my net wraps around about 3 feet over the ceiling there, so it allows me to hit balls very high without them going and smashing my living room windows. Now, this setup here is my outdoor gym with this pull-up bar here, and I didn't want to remove that. Most of you won't have this. So when I'm actually playing golf, I stick some of that foam pipe insulation around this. I got the 1-inch stuff that goes around this just so that a ball, if a ball did hit it by some freak circumstances, because we all know I hit it dead straight, then it's not going to come back and smash me in the gob. While we're on the subject, this post here, you can see this post is fully wrapped with some foam, thick foam. These are these knee pads that you can buy at the big orange box store when you're gardening or stuff like that. They're pretty cheap, 14 bucks each I think, but my post is wrapped with that because in the past I have hit a dreaded shankers and it's come off this and almost killed me. So, netting on the side, netting on the back. You want an impact screen like that, something like that, to kind of soften the blow of the ball, especially if you hit hard with the driver. Otherwise you'll be tearing through this netting pretty quickly. Most of the stuff I've used, I'm going to leave a link in the description for you so that you can go check it out. Most of this stuff is very affordable. It all adds up, but every kind of build is going to be different. Here I've got a little bit of a cage built with electrical pipe conduit to hold the netting your setup is going to be different. I've seen people online build them with PVC pipe, electrical conduit, all kinds of weird and wonderful ways of doing this. So we've covered the net, we've covered the padding, we've covered the net wrapping around the top. What we haven't covered is the mat. Now this is really important. You might be tempted to go and buy one of those cheap mats off Amazon, 100 bucks, 150 bucks, thinking that's all I need. No, no, no. Even a quality mat. This mat here that I'm standing on, this mat was an expensive mat bought about 10 years ago. And you know, it's wearing, but it's lasted 10 years. And when I bought it, it was about as good as you can get. Now they're on a different level. They're much more forgiving as far as your joints and stuff like that, which is why I've put an insert into mine. But I'm going to show you very quickly now a little short video I made a few weeks ago about this mat. So even if you get yourself a really top quality mat, by leaving it outside all the time, dust, pollen, water, sand, all kinds of stuff gets in it and it starts to fill up. The pile starts to fill up. And a mat that was originally quite forgiving, quite soft on impact with the club, all of a sudden, if you imagine all of that dirt and stuff, forms a bit of a kind of like almost like a mortar inside your mat, and it starts to become really tough and firm, and it will ruin your golf swing. Not only will it ruin your elbows and your shoulders and your wrists, but if the club is not allowed to descend through the pile slightly and bounce off, then you'll be thinning the ball a lot and wondering why. So watch that video, shows you about taking care of this mat. So even if you buy an expensive one, we're talking $400 and $500 ones, you still need to maintain it. You're still gonna have to clean it every once in a while to keep it nice and plush. Holy crap, look at all the dirt coming out of this thing. Wash your outdoor mat, my friends. Wash it. All right, that first video was me just using the hose with kind of like as you know, as hard as a jet as you can get on a regular house hose. That first video was that, and then I'm decided to get the old pressure washer out, and this is about 15 minutes, maybe 10 to 15 minutes with the pressure washer, and look, about the same amount of dirt came out as the first time round, and it's still not done. So moral of the story, wash your mat, folks. Right, well look at that. What a difference. I'll see if I can find an old picture, well not too old, maybe from a few weeks ago, how this looked so I can compare, but that's with a good pressure washing, so much better. Now, I've got my old one, it was still good for standing on, but I wanted the new tech for hitting off. So what did I buy? I bought myself a 3-foot strip, 3 foot by 1 foot of, I think, is it Carl's Place, like Country Club Elite? No, those are two different brands. It's Country Club Elite. There are a lot of different brands on the market now with some really cool technology in them, but I went for Country Club Elite hitting mat. If this is a section of it that I didn't need, look at the thickness of the foam on that. It's very hard wearing. The grass itself is beautiful, and the reason I like it is extremely forgiving on the joints, very soft, hard wearing. You won't destroy it easy, but more importantly, a lot of these mats, especially the firm ones, the club will bounce off them and into the ball, so you can't really tell if you've hit the ball slightly fat or not. With this one, if you hit it slightly behind the ball, it will let you know. It really slows, grabs the club head, and all kinds of disasters happen. So that's the mat situation. Now let's cover that's hitting. Let's cover putting. Now my weapon of choice for launch monitor is the FlightScope Mevo Plus, and I picked the Mevo Plus because one, I have about 20 feet here, so I have the distance. Two, after doing my research, I found that if you can get about 10 foot of flight on the ball, then the kind of blended technology between the Doppler radar and the camera on the FlightScope is really accurate with spin numbers and all of that. And especially if you upgrade, if you buy the FlightScope and the Mevo Plus and you upgrade to the Pro package that has all the club data, and then if you upgrade again to the face impact data, then you've got everything. And there's no subscription service with the Mevo Plus. Once you've paid your money, you're done. Now, you might not have the space for that, so you might opt for a camera-based system. There's quite a few new ones coming on the market, and then that will sit closer to your ball over here, so you don't need all of this space. But because I had all this space, I thought I'll go Mevo Plus, and I got mine secondhand for about $1,200. By the time I got the Pro package on sale, I was up to about, what was that? Can't remember where the Pro, I think I got it on sale, the Pro package, for just under 500 or something like that. So anyway, you know, I'm up to just shy of $2,000 with taxes for everything. So happy with that. Right, so we've talked about net, we've talked about mat, but we haven't covered putting. Now, as you can see, I have some high quality artificial turf here that they build putting greens out of. You can source it pretty much everywhere. You can get it at the big box stores. Sometimes it's special order depending where you live. Sometimes they have the rolls and you have to buy at least, I think they're 15-foot lengths, and you have to buy at least 1 foot width. But it doesn't break the bank either. But get yourself, if you're going to be putting, get yourself a really nice artificial turf to putt on. This one is like my putting green upstairs. Okay, you lay it down, it will drain, but then you fill it. You fill it with a special type of sand for putting greens, and that kind of weighs it all down and also makes it roll much faster. So now you'll notice, I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but I've got about 8 foot here of roll, and I've got another about 8 foot going back to the launch monitor. And is that bit there required? Because I'm not putting from there. The answer is no. But all of the reviews and the research I did suggested that if you have a level, uninterrupted surface between the launch monitor and your net, then the Mevo Plus is much better at being accurate with the putting. So that's what I did. Technically, I don't think it could be anything there if it was a level surface. And if you have a tiny bit of a dip, not much, there are settings inside the software to allow for that. But anyway, I went for this because that's what was recommended. Let's talk about ball tray. This ball tray here, which there'll be a link in the description as well, I got off Amazon, fantastic. It holds plenty of balls. It has a little area here to hold your cell phone, which I use all the time with the hack motion, so I can see exactly my numbers. And it's made of soft rubber, which is fantastic because it's quiet. It's quiet when you throw your balls back in or you drag them out. I used to have one of those cheap plastic ones, hard plastic ones, and I regretted that as soon as I bought it. It was just really, really noisy and irritating. Okay, so now my particular setup, those are all the kind of things that you need really. And then my particular setup has an old sliding door mirror here. That's just a piece of junk that I recycled. That's so I can practice visually, do my mirror drills, look at my feels, see if they correspond to what I'm thinking. And then over here I've got a little 3-foot mirror, which is just these kind of plastic mirror tiles. I'm just about to replace that with a cheap proper mirror that I'm just gonna put inside and bring out, simply because this one distorts the image slightly. But I use this one mainly to check my hand position at address, but I'll be replacing that with something else. But anyway, mirrors are a great idea. They're cheap, you can recycle them, and they will make a huge difference to your game. Right, so I'm going to pick the camera up now, and I'm just going to give you a little generalized tour of everything so you can see the outside stuff. Rightio, here we are. Here is my net setup. So as you can see, I built a bit of a frame with some electrical conduit, and then you can see the net kind of wraps around the top there, creating a bit of a roof. And then I have this impact cloth sheet, whatever you want to call it. That works really well. These cheap sandbags off Amazon, you can just fill with sand, help weigh the bottom of the net down if you don't want it blowing around everywhere. This is the putting turf that I told you about. There is my hitting tray, or my ball tray, and this is my old mat with the insert. So I just cut a couple of feet because my mat was only 3 feet across. So I cut an insert out 1 by 2 there. There it is. There is the Mevo Plus. Now, little added bonus for you. If you look carefully, my Mevo Plus is in this little gizmo here, which protects it. It has a clear plastic screen on it. It has 3 leveling feet, so you know that if you adjust it once with that little leveling bubble, then every time you put it back there, it is in exactly the same place. And if you spend a couple of bags on this device, you really don't want a ball smashing into this. That little plexiglass protects it nicely. You'll notice underneath it, I spray painted a box of where it goes. Once you've done your alignment on your Mevo Plus, then you can put it back there in exactly the same spot every time. Which brings me onto this white line. That is where the ball lines up with, that white line there. And this little dot here, that, according to FlightScope's own documentation, that is the perfect spot to place your ball to putt from, so that the Mevo Plus will pick up the putting. So it's not where you hit your balls from. Interestingly enough, it's only from about 7 feet away from the Mevo Plus and slightly outside the line, as they say. So one last thing to cover. As I said, this is a concrete slab, and I want the water to drain away on this. I don't want it to like sit inside or under the mat and it to get all putrid and disgusting. So what I did is I built my whole setup on top of these rubber drainage mats you can get off Amazon that allow all the water to drain through the bottom. So they're nicely shock absorbent as well, so they take a bit of give for the impact of the club, but they allow drainage. So every situation is going to be different. Obviously, with the thickness of my old mat, I needed to get the putting level up to the same, so both my hitting mat and the putting are on that drainage mat. But then this putting turf was slightly thinner, so I had to lay down some of this rubber mat here. So I have my drainage I have some of these gym mats here. I have another layer of rubber here, and then I have my putting turf. Every situation is going to be different. If I'd spent a little bit more money, I could have got some of these gym tiles that were the same thickness as these 2 layers of mine, and that probably would have been a cleaner solution for me. But to get them, those thicker tiles was quite a bit more expensive, so I went with this option. Who knows, I might change it up in the future. So I told you this video would drag on, which is why it's going to be in 2 parts. Now I'm not going to tease you, I'm not going to release them like 2 weeks apart. I'll release them pretty close to each other, but that is the outside of my hitting area. Oh, one last little detail. Right up here, this is the edge of the roof of my shed. And I calculated that if we're hitting driver from over here, we're going to miss it by a mile. But if some idiot decides to do something stupid, then he wouldn't bust his or her driver head up against the roof there. So adapt to your situation, put safety measures everywhere. You will injure yourself or somebody else if you're not careful. That's it. End of part 1. Check out part 2 for all of the tech indoors. Here we go.